You were listening to The Unhappy Hour Sports Radio Show on the newamericanmedia.com.
Live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, the United States of America, which is located in North America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to The Unhappy Hour. This is where your humble correspondent gets a chance to talk about why I'm a Cleveland sports fan. The Indians, the Cavs, the Browns. Yeah, it's the Unhappy Hour because we don't really get to celebrate championships since 1964, the Cleveland Browns. Cavs have never won a championship. What was it for the Indians? It was 1948, I believe. Was it 52? 48. You know what? Decades and decades of futility, decades before I was born. What's the difference between 48 and 52? That's why we're here. This is the Unhappy Hour. My name's Brian Engelman. I'm going to be your host. And you know what it is. You know what's going on. It's Indians time, thankfully. And I'm really happy about that. However, it's also NBA time. The Cavs have the number 1 draft pick. We did a show last week with Zak about that, and we're going to bring him back on the program in just a minute or two. NBA scout Zak Baris. He's also a lifelong Cleveland sports fan. You know, the Cleveland Indians are playing well, and that's fantastic. And Urban Meyer's getting ready to get things going for the Buckeyes down in Columbus, thankfully. And the Cleveland Browns, man, if Jimmy Haslam can stay out of trouble, if Trent Richardson can stay out of trouble, if Brandon Whedon can pass his Medicare exemption after the new Obamacare rules because he's such an old man. No, I don't know. I'm going to give Brandon Whedon a chance. I'm kind of just kidding with him. But, you know, it is NBA time. And there's a couple of things going on, a few different storylines. Obviously, the Spurs are right there waiting. That is a bad idea to give the Spurs rest and to give those coaches time to really, 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 really study their opponents. Not a good idea. But that's what happens when you can sweep your opponent. You earn that. So the Spurs are waiting for either the Heat or the Pacers, of course, as a Cleveland sports fan. Do I really even have to say that I'm rooting against LeBron James? But one of the storylines right now is LeBron James 2014. I heard ESPN, whole segment, really a lot of today, but especially this morning they were talking about 2014. Is LeBron coming back to Cleveland? You know, and it's kind of tough thinking about that. It's a lot like thinking about an ex-wife or an ex-girlfriend or something, you know? It's like they're gone. You know, enough. Okay, so by that same rationale, is it wrong to root against LeBron just like you'd root against an ex-husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend? Sports, the purpose of sports is to root. You pick a favorite team, and then anyone that's not your favorite team, you're rooting against because you want your favorite team to win. It's a little different. But I can definitely say some of the hate for the Heat has subsided. Kind of felt a lot of the pressure, a lot of the stress, the tension after they got their first championship and hopefully their last. Last year, it was good to just kind of stop carrying that around. But there's a lot of talk. Will LeBron be back in Cleveland in 2014? So, you know, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, all the other goings-on in the NBA. We're going to bring in NBA scout Zak Baris in just 1 second. Real quick, thank you to everybody following us on Twitter. Please do so. Follow us. We're at American_media_. Thank you for checking out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. And, of course, in college football season, it becomes thenewamericanmedia.com in honor of the Ohio State University, of course. Thank you for subscribing. We're getting a lot of subscriptions, and where are we at? We're at 92,000 video views on YouTube. Thank you. YouTube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Subscribe to that, please. And definitely search The New American Media on Facebook. But anyway, let's bring in the NBA scout because we got so much stuff to get into. There's really no need to drag this out anymore. He's a bit of a soothsayer. It looks like, especially the Dwight Howard thing, talking to Houston. You know, you want to know what's going on in the NBA before it happens. You know, nobody's 100% on their predictions, but Zak definitely knows his stuff, and that's why we keep bringing him in during NBA time.
Hello?
Zach, welcome back to the program. You're live. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great. Just in Las Vegas right now. It's a little hot outside.
Las Vegas. Where are you staying? Is it?
I'm just here for the afternoon for a workout.
Okay. So you're gonna gamble or hit a pool or do anything fun, or you're just flying back?
Flying out in a couple of hours. I'll be back in a couple days though, so it's not a big deal.
All right. Well, once again, one of these days we got to hang out in Los Angeles. We're neighbors, and we're always too busy. But coming up soon. Zach, by the way, can be found on Twitter. He's at Zbaris. That's Zbaris. All right, Zach, I'm going to kind of toss it open to you. I led the show off just kind of hitting the recap. We had the Spurs waiting for whoever their opponent's going to be. You have the Heat playing the Pacers, obviously. You have the Cavs with the number 1 draft pick. 2014, will LeBron be back? And then also the conversation about Chris Paul, Dwight Howard. Where do you want to start? We can go wherever you're feeling.
Wherever you want.
All right, let's go with the Cleveland stuff. Let's first any draft information that we have with Nerlens Noel question mark trades, and then the LeBron stuff. Then we'll get to the rest of the NBA. How about that?
Okay, like I said, I still think coming back from last week when the Cavs won the lottery, I still think the Cavaliers, as of today, would take Nerlens Noel number 1 overall. I know there's pressure from Dan Gilbert to win this season, but you don't pass on the best player with the long-term potential. Ben McLemore has, he has a tremendous amount of talent, but do I see him being a superstar? No, I don't even know if he's going to be better than Deion Waiters. And, then you have a logjam at the shooting guard, too, if you take McLemore, because of Waiters. And so I kind of think take the center. I know it doesn't always pan out. If you look in years where some centers have gone as higher picks, it doesn't always pan out. Sometimes the other guy, look at Duran Odin. That's one for example, but I feel like Odin would have still been a great player if it wasn't for the knee injuries.
I agree.
But speaking of, there's been other drafts too where, teams have taken, look at Hasheem Thabeet, with the Memphis Grizzlies. He was taking over, I believe, James Harden and Ricky Rubio, so there's example number 1. But Hasheem Thabeet, everyone knew going into the draft that he had extremely high bust potential, but that's just another example of what we're talking about here. And I tend to think that the Cavaliers are leaning towards Nerlens Noel at this point, but I think they'd love to trade the pick. I think they want to win now. I think they want to be able to go have a winning season, win 40-something games, put the fans back in the stands, get on national television occasionally, give Kyrie Irving and Deion Waiters some help, along with Tristan Thompson. They have a very thin roster right now, and if they can acquire a guy like a Kevin Love or a LaMarcus Aldridge in a trade for the number 1 overall pick, then do it. I just don't see the Aldridge trade as likely to happen as Kevin Love would. But, that's not saying either one of them couldn't happen.
Let me ask you about Kyrie Irving really quick, because everybody's saying, is LeBron happy in Miami, and could he opt out, and Dwayne Wade's failing, all that stuff. We're going to get to that in a second. But let me just focus back on Kyrie Irving. Should the Cavs fans be worried, and should the upper management be worried about Kyrie wanting to leave Cleveland? Because that's something it's not on my radar.
I wouldn't be worried for another couple of years. I don't think. Now it's a different story in 3 years if they still haven't put a winning team on the floor. Then I'd begin to worry. But until then, I wouldn't be too concerned.
Okay. So the possible trade options then, once again, we're just getting back to Kevin Love, LaMarcus Aldridge. Out of those two, maybe the Kevin Love thing, maybe Varejao gets thrown in. Any other wild cards, possibilities? I know they're shopping it, but it's not like there's a Shaquille O'Neal or LeBron James in this
even
draft.
Acquire a guy like Pao Gasol. The Lakers are going to be, depending on if they keep Howard or not, they need to get under the salary cap. Or at least they're going to be paying so much in the luxury tax. They're going to want to try to get out of their current position, just to be able to free up for 2014 also in that summer. So even though Gasol only has 1 year left on his deal, he's an expiring deal, you need to try to bring in some younger talent to fill out the bench pieces, over the next couple seasons too. Because if you're going to go out there and try to make a big splash, and there's also no guarantee that Dwight Howard comes back next year too.
That is true.
I think that's concern number 1. I think Dwight will decide everything when it comes to, these trades, whether Dwight Howard leaves, will the Lakers be more inclined to keep Gasol or trade him? And, I can't see the Lakers attempting to go through a 1 year total rebuild where they gut the roster, bring in a bunch of draft picks, and then shoot for the 2014, a top 5 pick there. It just doesn't seem like, Jim Buss's style. He wants to win, and he wants to win now. And that's always been the motto of the Lakers. But, if they do somehow land the number 1 overall pick in the draft and wind up with Andrew Wiggins, it'll be a pretty easy sell for L.A. to go and surround him with star players.
Could you
I'm
imagine?
just saying.
Could you imagine, Zach, Andrew Wiggins with a healthy Kobe Bryant and LeBron James? Oh.
Well, that would never happen, but yes, it would be pretty cool to see that. But I mean, you're looking at the Lakers do have a bad season and they do lose Howard, and Kobe doesn't play much. You could be in line to get one of the Harrison twins from Kentucky, Aaron Gordon from Arizona, Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker from Duke. There's a ton of talent in next year's draft. You're looking at 8 guys with, really, really ceiling high potential in next year's draft. So it wouldn't be the end of the world. I know it's not the motto of the Lakers to tank, but in this day and age, in this NBA, especially with the cap being the way it is and the luxury tax, it's going to be very hard for teams to stay good for a consistent amount of time. It's not going to be easy like it used to be to have a dynasty and have 12 or 13 straight great years. The luxury tax now has just increased. It's going to be very hard to do that. There's a lot of turnover with the rosters nowadays. And I just see it being very difficult to sustain success for that long of a period of time.
So you're saying it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to be successful for not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6 seasons. To paraphrase LeBron James, it's kind of hard to stay good that long.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So you have to take a look at it and say, you know what, we can be competitive. We can either be a 40 or 50 win team year in, year out, or what we can do is we can make this team, and do what Miami did a few years ago, where we gutted the roster, went out and signed LeBron, re-signed Wade and brought in Chris Bosh, and we're going to get at least 1 championship out of it, if not 2 or 3, and we're going to probably make 4 NBA Finals appearances, in the 4 years LeBron plays with us. And if I'm looking there, if I'm an owner or a GM, I could be content with that. 3 rings. Okay, if we need to turn over every couple of years, that's what we're going to do.
Well, now how do you feel about the Cavs organization? Because that's basically what they've had. It was a slower process because they got really blindsided, kind of set that whole year back. Then Kyrie, and then last year.
Well, they also just had so many bad contracts too. I mean, you had Antoine Jameson, you just had Mo Williams. You had a lot of bad contracts on that roster, and they just took on more and more money in short-term contracts. And they were able to acquire picks. They sat on a couple of those guys for a couple of years. They're still writing up Boobie Gibson's contract, and that's what they've had to do. It's set them back a long time. But if you take a look at it, it was probably, Chris Grant, his future's ready. He could go down he's made some great moves as the GM, also some surprising moves, but he could go down as one of the, is the Cavs' best GM ever, or he could go down as a giant flop if they fail to acquire more talent. Nobody wants to see, I guess some fans in Cleveland that I've talked to would rather see a 40-win Cavaliers team, without LeBron than see a 65-win team with LeBron. I don't know why, but, as being a Clevelander, all I would care about is winning. I don't care.
We've talked about that before. I root for laundry. That's it. I root for laundry. Whoever happens to be in it, so be it, and they get you more wins.
A team's a team, despite the players on it. It will always be a team.
Yeah, and I rooted for Albert Bell. I rooted for Manny Ramirez. Maybe not the most the best role models out there in Major League Baseball. You just root for who's in your laundry at the time. I could care less. I just want championships. I want titles.
Exactly. That's the only thing that counts in this day and age. And you have to go out there and you have to make an attempt to win. And I think the Cavaliers, if I were the Cavaliers this season, I would take Nerlens Noel number 1. If I'm unable to trade the pick for a proven all-star or a guy with all-star caliber, I would not go and trade the pick for a mediocre or decent player. I'm looking with the number 1 overall pick to go out there and get a proven guy who is borderline all-star or around there. Like I said, we're talking LaMarcus Aldridge, we're talking Kevin Love, we're talking guys on that caliber.
Are you comfortable with Go ahead.
Now, the interesting rumor that's been brought up lately is DeMarcus Cousins. I can't see that one happening, especially with the Kings' new ownership in place in Sacramento, and the fact that he's such a locker room cancer. I cannot see that one happening for the foreseeable future, at least. But it is always a possibility if Sacramento decides to trade him, but I think they're trying to build around him.
Kevin Love, are you satisfied that you never know what's going to happen with players, and we'll talk about Dwayne Wade starting to fall apart, and it's all over ESPN, and we're all watching it happen in slow motion, like a bad car crash in a 16-year-old driver's training video. But how do you feel about Kevin Love and his health? You know, because he's had some issues. So is Kyrie Irving, for that matter. LeBron is
Yeah,
really a man of steel.
You got to take the shot, though. You know, I mean, if you put together a roster of Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving next year, you know, it's going to be it would be a pretty impressive roster, to say the least. You know, it's going to win some games. It pleases Kyrie Irving. You know, obviously can't help injuries. But if you trade the number one in Varejao and move Varejao in that deal, you know, you're just getting rid of another injury risk at the same time. You know, I would trust Love to play more games than Anderson Varejao does.
Man, that was so hard watching Varejao go down last year. He was having such a mammoth beginning of the season. So rough.
But, I mean, the one thing that worries me about Varejao on this Cavaliers team is that it prevents Tristan Thompson's development. I mean, if you look at Tristan's numbers throughout the year, I mean, and I watched a fair amount of Cavs games last year, you know, and I saw that Tristan Thompson was terrible at the beginning of the season. You know, he was averaging like 7 and 7. As soon as, you know, and his PER was around 10. It was around 9 or 10. You know, I don't even know if it was in double digits actually. And he had such a miserable beginning of the season. I was like, wow, he took a step back. Talk about that one. Talk about a failure on that one with Chris Grant. And then all of a sudden, as soon as Varejao goes down, he has some huge games, puts it together, and suddenly this Cavs team, you know, he's putting up, you know, you're looking on a consistent basis, putting up 16 and 10 on a nightly basis. So that's what you need out of Tristan, you know. And if you get Kevin Love, it allows someone to space the floor. That's what the Cavs need. You know, although Noel would definitely help because he'll be such a great interior presence defensively, especially if he's healthy. But you know, Kevin Love is the proven guy. He's an outside shooter. He's great from all around the court. It allows Tristan to play more inside and develop more in the post.
Okay, well, I get your point. You know, trade Varejao while his stock is high. You give Tristan room to develop, and then you get somebody to complement. I totally understand that. But let me ask you two more Cavs questions before we make our pivot here. Mm-hmm. Really quick, because we talked a little bit off air, and I kind of want you to just hit us with the bullet points again for the reminder. By the way, thanks to all the people that are leaving the comments on the YouTube channel and stuff. We're actually finally getting a little bit of Cleveland love. People, hey, congratulations, getting the pick, and hey, man, it's been a rough couple of years. Good luck. You know, people getting some love. So thank you to everybody leaving comments. Please feel free to. But really quick for a recap. What are the Cavs draft pick options coming up? Because we were talking about the Sacramento Kings, we were talking about the Miami Heat. Like look at this year and then a year or two down the road. What other draft picks in the first round could the Cavs potentially be looking at?
They have Sacramento's, but I believe it's top 10 protected next year. But you know, to say if Sacramento goes out and what the rumor says right now, if they go out and sign Monte Ellis, you know, who's not going to be too much of a difference maker. But I mean, if he winds up, you know, he could easily wind up adding some wins to that ball club, you know, in Sacramento. So it could wind up being a nice haul in for them. And, they might move out of that, you know, top 10 pick range if they were to sign him. But they also have, I think the biggest key is the Cavaliers own Miami's 2015 first-round pick. And if Bosh and LeBron opt out, I fully expect at this point for Wade to opt in. Because with his severe decline over the last couple of months, and just, you know, I can only imagine what he's going to be like in 2 years from now. You know, you look at him, he'll be making about $20 million a season. He'll opt in, would be my guess.
Are you saying with Dwayne Wade, that's kind of like the really attractive person in high school that you kind of know they've hit their peak and it's just going to be a roller coaster ride downhill from there? Like they're never getting better than that. Like Dwayne Wade is seen, he's not going to get paid any better than Miami because he's on the downward turn of his career. Are we ready to stick the fork in Dwayne Wade?
I wouldn't say the fork in him. He's still, I just don't think he's the star player he once was. You know, he's still a good player, but is he, by any means, a top 5 player in the NBA anymore? Absolutely not, in my opinion. You know, would I take James Harden over him now? Yes. Would I have said that a year ago? Absolutely not, but I say it now.
Wow, Harden over Wade. And that's what LeBron's going to have to figure out. And so talk about that 2015 pick. If the team gets gutted.
That's the thing. If Miami does lose LeBron, which they most likely will, is my guess. My guess is they lose LeBron. You know, he has no reason to opt in there. You know, no matter what, he's going to opt out. That doesn't necessarily mean he might not sign a new contract with Miami. But I can tell you, he will not be opting in for one season. It's not going to happen. So he's either going to opt out either way, either re-sign a new deal with Miami or leave. My guess is he leaves. My guess is that Chris Bosh goes to the highest bidder too, which will get close to a max contract either from a team like Dallas or Houston or some other team, who's in a position to be able to sign him. And my guess is that he'll somehow wind up in Dallas.
Dallas is going to get somebody. They're getting someone.
Are a possibility.
Right. I suppose so.
Even the Lakers are a possibility in 2014. So, and Miami will sit there and they're going to need to retool. They're going to have to get under the luxury tax to be able to go back and sign, to sign players. They're going to have to, basically acquire some picks and move assets around in order to restock for the future. Because like we said, this is not your old NBA right here. This is the new NBA where it's hard to sustain success for long periods of time. So what we're looking at right now is Miami's probably going to lose LeBron, and most likely we will lose Chris Bosh too. And I think if Bosh walks, I think LeBron's 100% out the door because they won't have any money to go sign anyone else, and they won't have money to make. They won't have the flexibility to do a sign and trade with today's. You can't make the sign and trades if you're over the cap. So
what we're looking at then in 2015 is that LeBron and Chris Bosh could potentially be. Bosh has the same opt-out in 14, right?
It's 2014, but yeah. But that 2015 pick in the 2014-2015 season, that pick goes to the Cavs. They could conceivably be a top 5, top 10 pick.
And it's not protected in any way?
No, I don't believe so, no.
Okay, yeah, I don't recall that it was either. I'm 90.
I don't ever recall seeing a protection on the pick.
Well, because the Heat were thinking not 7, not 10, not 20. They're going to get 30 championships in a row. So, they were never imagining that they might be blowing up their roster. Sorry, NSA, I say blowing up figuratively, not literally. Anyway, that they would be blowing up their roster in 2014 and could be really lousy for that 2015 pick that wouldn't belong to them at that point where the Cavs might be able to make out like crazy again, and they might even get LeBron James in the process. Who the heck knows?
I mean, if the Cavaliers want, and here's how you have to look at it. If the Cavs, because I do think there's a legitimate shot. I've been saying that LeBron is back. But you have to take a look at the 2014 roster, and this is what I think the Cavaliers are looking at. The Cavaliers want to be competitive this year because they know they're going to be making their pitch to LeBron either way.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, listen, we can put together a better 2014 roster than the Miami Heat can. Subtract yourself. And I think he did that a couple of years ago when he was looking. He subtracted himself from the Cavs roster and goes, okay, this is maybe a 25-win team without me, maybe a 30-win team when they're completely healthy. Miami will probably win. They added Chris Bosh. They're probably a 45, 47-win team without me. I go there, we're going to win 60 games, and we're going to win the Eastern Conference, guaranteed. Probably a guaranteed title, which they wound up losing to Dallas, but they got one a year later. So that's for one. And the Cavaliers will look at it, and they go, okay, we've got Kyrie Irving, Deion Waiters, Tristan Thompson, and let's say either Nerlens Noel or Kevin Love, to pair with them. And they go, and we have tons of money to spend on the bench, and we have a lot of future assets and future draft picks that we can move. We can move players for picks if we have to. Dan Gilbert's not afraid of playing the luxury tax. We also learned that in Miami that Mickey Harrison's all right with it too. But,
right.
I think that's what really matters the most is that you have two owners that are willing to spend, but LeBron will have a better chance to go back to his hometown and win a title there than he would in Miami if the Cavaliers can conceivably put together a decent roster. I don't any way LeBron comes back if they go and win 11 games next year, if the Cavs do that. But if they can put on a competitive team on the floor, which I think they're going to do this season, I think they will fill out the bench. I think they're going to attempt to go after and sign a Tony Allen type or or Marco Bellinelli, two guys who are both really good defensively, and a perfect fit for Mike Brown's system. And I think that's what they're going to do. I think they will go out and make an attempt. I think they're even going to make an attempt to acquire Pao Gasol for a year if they do draft Nerlens Noel. Trading the 19th, 31, and 33rd pick, getting Gasol, even though he wouldn't be there a year later, would still be a big haul for the Cavs to put fans in the seats and, still want to make the playoffs and show what you can do.
So you're saying maybe trade the 19, 31, and 32 to the Lakers for a Pao Gasol with only a year left on the deal? To dump payroll?
Yeah, because it puts fans in the seats. It gets you the national attention again. You get the exposure, and also Kyrie Irving proves that he shows that he can go out there. The Cavaliers are willing to make moves to surround him with talent. With also keeping 2014 win. Now I would be shocked this year if the Cavaliers went out there and they went and signed Andre Iguodala in free agency and ruined their chance to 2014. I would be shocked. I cannot see that happening. It'd be a total panic move.
And the panic moves are what killed the Cavs in the first place, trying to acquiesce to all LeBron's, hey, get this guy, get that guy, I got to win now, I got to win now. And there was no long-term strategy. It was just go, 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 go. And then you look back 2-3 years later and go, oh, crap, what did we do? Yeah, buyer's regret, buyer's remorse.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's leave some of that. Let's leave some of that in limbo right now. We'll just kind of, unless you have any final thoughts on the Cavs, on the draft, on the LeBron James stuff, and then I kind of want to just focus on the NBA Finals for a minute. Did you have any other point you wanted to make with all that?
No, I think we're good on that.
Okay, then let's do this. We'll hit a quick reset. We're joined with NBA scout Zak Baris. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should do so. He's at ZBaris. That's ZBARIS. Follow him there. This is the New American Media. You're listening to The Unhappy Hour. And please make sure you're following us on Twitter. We're at American_media_. Search The New American Media on Facebook and like our page. And check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com, and subscribe to youtube.com/The New American Media. On the other side, we're going to talk NBA Finals. The Spurs are waiting. The Spurs are studying. The Spurs are resting. That is probably not good for whoever comes out of the East. And you have the Pacers and Heat battling. We'll be right back on the other side. My name is Brian Engelman. This is The Unhappy Hour.
You are listening to The New American Media.